Hello everyone, welcome to Beskidy. Starting out here, Grandpa, we're headed out to work. So let's just head out to, oh hey, wait a minute. Let me start with this one right here. Actually, let me get off the tractor. In the last episode, I think I explained that I was busy working on fixing a bunch of errors in the log. And I've continued that. And I want to show you all something that I did with this one here that I didn't even know was a capability of this particular mower, the Sipma? Is that how you say that? Sipma? Maybe someone from Poland will correct me. But I discovered something in this mod, and this is how you discover stuff when you tear it apart. There was an error in it, an index was specified wrong, and the index happened to be something. Let me get close enough. Okay, see the up in the instructions, take off the cover key X. So when I hit X, look at that. Now it basically lets you see kind of the undercarriage, if you will, of the mower. Lets you open it up so you can see all the discs in there. And I'm kind of curious now. I haven't tried this. I wonder if, when we turn it back on, if you can literally see the thing spinning. Look at that. Hey, now that's kind of cool. That's very cool. So come to find out, this particular mower mod had a script in it. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but basically it is showing and hiding of an object. So here we can, oops, wrong key. Here we can put it back on. Here we can take it off, put it on, whatever. I guess under the presumption that if someone wanted to pretend they were repairing it, or I don't know, maybe just wanted to open it and see those mowers turning. The interesting thing is you're not allowed to open it unless you are literally standing right by it. So you get it must be within, what is it, at 1.5, 2 meters. I'd have to look at the script again. But it was kind of cool to find it here. And the problem is the script, or excuse me, the XML file that this script calls up for the mower, or the mower's XML file, had an extra tag in there for the script, and the tag, when I say tag, index, if you will, was incorrect. The index that identified the cover here, it was simply on the wrong index, which didn't exist. So all I had to do was just fix it, and now it works. And like I say, the way it's set up is you have to be outside of the tractor in order to do it. Out here you can do it if you are in the tractor itself. It'll let you fold the mower and set it up kind of like we had it, but it will not let you open it. And you can kind of see it under. Yeah, you can even see it turn in here. That's kind of a cool little feature. I really don't know. It was kind of fun to fix at. It goes to show, a lot of mods may have these hidden features that you never know about until you pull open the mod and figure it out a little bit. And yeah, it just kind of, I'm relearning Farm Sim 13. And a lot of these mods, I basically cleaned up my mod folder. Got rid of most of the errors. There is one that I'm dealing with at the moment for, which one is it on? Oh goodness. Oh, I know what it is. It was for a cultivator, and yeah, there's something wrong with translating parts. I've never been very good at moving parts or moving tools as to how all those interrelate. There's rotation, there's translation. It's just an area of modding I haven't ever studied a whole lot on, so I may just give up on that one and tolerate an error in the air, so long as it works the way I need it to work in here. But be all that as it may, we're back here in the map, and I'm kind of over here by the hayfield. I continued working a little off cam from the last episode. I went ahead and I tedded the rest of the field, and here I am sitting in the baler. Let me just hop out. Oops, real quick. Poor farmer over here next door using their canola field to park our machinery. So it is really hard to tell looking at this, because remember, we just had a string of bales over here where we picked up the baler was vomiting bales. That's kind of where we got all these, that are sitting on our trailer. We picked them all up, and the windrow that we had really didn't look appreciably larger than what we see over here. So in a little bit, I'm going to be windrowing this up, and I'm kind of curious, this will be the proof in the pudding, to see how the baler behaves. If we see any more vomiting of bales, sorry to keep using that phrase, if we see any more vomiting of bales out the back of the baler, then we'll know something is still wrong with our script. And I gotta say, I want to fix this too, although I'm not 100% sure how. That bugs me. Where you cut the grass, and when you're running the tedder, it doesn't do anything to the grass underneath, but you see there are two strips here where we engage the windrower, and it kind of took the growth stage of the grass all the way back to ground zero. Whereas here for this other ground, it appears it's a growth step kind of ahead. So it means, when this field grows, there's going to be some strips in it, and that kind of bugs me, which kind of makes me wonder, if I could come through here with the baler and simply pick it straight up out of the tedded row. Now, it'd probably take a little bit longer to cover the field, if we didn't windrow it first, but I'm not sure I'm wild about the idea of having, like I say, all these bald spots kind of sitting here in the field. So I do feel that is something to maybe try to figure out. The only thing I'll say is I set the script up for the tedder and the windrower to behave exactly the way the Giants does. So maybe I have to go play the base game to see kind of how it behaves there with no mods. Anyhow, so we got a little bit to do here with the baler, which is kind of sitting here ready to go. And just looking around, someone left a comment on the video not that long ago. They commented on the vibrancy of the colors in here, and they were asking if I was using a special shader or if the map had a special shader in it. And I'm not aware of anything special in it. The thing I mentioned is I did have a mod installed, and I'm just going to toggle it here real quick. I haven't done this very often, but this is how it would normally work. If you look at the distant hills, there's a little bit of haze on them, and I don't know. It's probably realistic. It's maybe better in many ways. But sometimes for some of the taking a picture, I would just remove it, and there's a little more clarity, by removing some of the distance haze. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody here has a particular preference one way or the other. I have no idea where the so-called distance fog starts to come in. Is it just beyond those trees over there, or is it only on the mountain backdrop? I just don't know. But shoot, maybe for this session here, I'll just leave it that way. Now then, the baler. The baler is all ready to go here, but there's something, this was one mod as I was fixing things in the log that I didn't really do anything with. And one of the things I'm kind of curious about is looking at the area in the front here. Now, in a real-life baler, as you look at the snout here, with the exactitude required by a mod, when you specify, I'm probably going to hop in the tractor to be able to point at things, get my mouse. You know, I turn on good old course play just so I can point with this silly mouse. The exactitude required in a mod is that it defines what's called a cutting area. Anything that takes material in or cuts foliage has a cutting area in this version of Farming Sim, and it defines 3 points which define a plane or a parallelogram, if you will. You know, it's going to have a start index, it's going to have a width index, and then it's going to have a height index. So like back here, here, and here. So it defines a parallelogram, and as the thing moves, the game engine sees the parallelogram, and with the Lua code it knows to pick up, for in the case of a baler, it's going to pick up any material, you know, that's coming through and lands in that particular parallelogram. And so it removes, it deletes it, it then replaces it with something if it needs to, or with nothing. It may do something to the ground underneath, so forth and so on. You know, and in the case of, say, a cultivator, it also is going to have one or more parallelograms defining the cutting area, and it's going to do something in there. I mean, we see it all the time, you know, of course, when we play the game, but it's defined by those 3 points. Well, in real life, with a baler, when it's dealing with all this fluffy hay or straw or whatever, a lot of times it will grab a windrow into it, which is what this is. It will grab and take in a windrow that is larger than its width. It's just kind of how it works, because all these straws and hay, grasses and stems, they're all intertwined. And I mean, not every windrow is created equal. Sometimes it's going to depend on how long the stems are, how brittle they are, that kind of thing, how interlaced they are with others, kind of the style of how it's cut and laid together. So I realize there's going to be, differences between material that's picked up. But depending on the material, sometimes it will grab stuff that is off to the side and take it in. And the reason I mention the ad is because I kind of like the ad. You know, when you have too tight of an area, what can invariably happen, and it always drives me nuts, is you'll leave little bits through the field, and then, you know, because some of us have OCD and we got to pick up every doggone, piece in the field, we got to come back and pick up those little bits, just to make sure we feel good about ourselves. So one way to prevent or to avoid having too many of those is to widen just a little bit the working area of like in this case the baler. Now in Farm Sim 17, I actually took pains to make a script that would take anything that had a working area. I think they changed the terminology when you got to Farm Sim 17. It was then called a working area. It was no longer called a cutting area. Maybe they even changed it as a Farm Sim 15. I don't recall. But anything that had a working area, it would see the sides, and you could expand it from the tab or from the cab of your tractor. Like if you were pulling this, it was just in the input binding, and you could see these red lines, and it would expand it and pull from a larger area if you wished. Or you could narrow it. You could do whatever you wanted with it. Well, I'm too lazy to try to bring that script back to Farm Sim 13, but I really enjoyed it. I never did release it, and it was, I don't know what I'm doing. Probably a professional coder could do it. I seem to recall I had over 1,000 lines of code in it to try to do it. But anyway, so if we want to do it another way, it's to manually adjust this particular mod and go see kind of what the working area or the cutting area is, and manually modify it just to make it a little bit bigger. So that's what I'm going to try to do. It's something I didn't do here the other days. I was fussing with all the errors in the log, and now that I have most of those drummed out, I thought I would pop open this particular mod. I've never looked inside it, and have a little play with it. So let me just hop out of game real quick to look at this. Okay, I've already unzipped it. Let me see over here. In the mods folder, the SIPMA Z244, whatever it is. So in here, one of the first things I notice is there is no i3D file. The i3D file, you even see up here, we got the Giants editor open, the untitled i3D, where that is the type of file that gets opened in the editor. And every single model, at least that I'm aware of, that is used in Farming Sim, is an i3D file. I could be mistaken on that, but I think most of them are, including in the newer versions of Farming Sim. So I don't see an i3D file. So what it tells me is the modder for this particular mod, whoever it is, try. It's really, in some ways, it's laughable because it really isn't copy protection. All they're trying to do is keep honest people honest. Anybody that knows a little about modding is going to be able to figure this out. So what do you do? Well, this is one part they can't modify. And really what we're going to see happen is what they do is they change the names of the files so you can't find the i3D file. They call it something else, but it still is an i3D file. They just give it a different file extension than i3D, to try to throw you off. I think there's a number of modders, rightfully so, concerned with people stealing their work, modifying their work, and then re-releasing it without giving credit, or so forth and so on. So one of the things they do to try to prevent that is to mess some things up in here to throw people off the trail. So let's pop this open here real quick. This is a mod description XML. Every mod must have one of these. There is no hiding this. They have to state it this way or the game engine isn't even going to pick it up. So, okay, here we see the authors. Perkins, Burner, and Fitch, whoever these guys are. Yeah, they tried to hide things a little bit. So, this here has, of course, the basics of the mod. And one of the things it's going to have in here, here's the store. It should tell us what the XML file is. All right, here they're defining the baler. Come down here. Aha, here we go. This is their XML file. Well, look at this. They are calling it a type of a picture, a DDS. That's direct draw surface. That is a picture file, or what should be a picture. But what we're going to find out is this particular file is actually an XML file, just renamed as if it's a picture file. And so we're going to open this file. The reason this matters is when we open this file, it's going to tell us where the i3D file is. That's why, we need to open this particular file. Because I'll tell you, if you come over, see here, you see one right here. Look at this. Isn't this helpful? They give you an XML file right here, name SIPMAZ E224. But when you open it, here where it should tell you the i3D file name, it says sipmaz224.rar. Well, .rar is a type of compressed file, if you will. It's kind of like a zip file. Well, there's no, if we go back over here, do you see a rar file? Yeah, I don't see it either. And this file here is to throw you off. A lot of times, most of us, we pop open a mod, we would go straight to the XML file, to look at these things. So here it is, sitting right here. You open it, and you figure out real quick you've been given a red herring. Because this file doesn't exist. Well, it kind of does, but it's the whole thing. And it's just, I guess what I'm saying is, this XML file, we could delete it from the mod because it isn't used. It isn't needed at all. So let's dump it. Because the mod description file tells us where the true XML file is, and it's in the textures area, sipma224.dds. So let's dive into textures, and here it is, sipma224.dds. I think that's what it says, right? So yeah, this looks like a DDS file, but you notice how every other, Well, except for that one. I guess sometimes when it's zipped, it won't show it to you, but many of these others are showing a preview of what is inside. This one is being mysterious and isn't, and the reason is because this really isn't a picture file. So we're not going to open it with a picture editor. I don't even know if it will open, but what we're going to do is we're going to open, okay, that ain't going to work. Let's edit with a notepad, because that's kind of where we look at XML files. Well, look at that now. Here is the true XML file, even though it's named as a picture file. So it has in here, kind of like we were talking a little bit earlier, the cutting areas. Here is where it's defining the parallelogram, the start, the width, and the height, kind of like we talked earlier. These 3 points form the parallelogram where it's picking up the windrow. So what we want to do is find these indices in the i3D file so we can widen it just a fuzz, and that way we'll be able to take in just a little bit larger windrow. I mean, in theory, we could stretch the sucker out, to be like, 100 meters in width, and it'll pick up the whole field at once. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to just make it a little fuzz wider so that we pick up just a little bit more area if we need to. All right, so where is the i3D file? Well, where it typically puts it in the XML file is under file name up here. And here again, they played another fast one here. They say it's in textures :DDS. So what they're saying is they put the i3D file in a picture file, just like they did with the XML. All right, so that means if we come over here, we're now in the editor. Let's, oh yeah, it isn't even going to see it. We're in textures. It's looking for an i3D. So let's open or show anything that's a DDS. All right, here it is. And look, they're being so sneaky. They have a colo.dds. They have a cola.dds. And they're named similarly enough, you probably wouldn't even think about it, but the one we want to open is here, and it should open in and recognize it. Yep, see, there it did. So here, finally, hidden in this little picture file, away from our prying eyes, is this fine-looking baler here, and we now want to modify its working area. So we're kind of looking here. We want to see kind of where this is. Let's go back to our XML. It says a cutting area is in the start index is at index 10, 2, 3, and 4. So let's open this. You count it down: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then it's looking for 10, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so the start index, it's starting it over here, so that's kind of right at the edge of this wheel. See, it's already just a little bit over. The width goes across. And by the way, you could have started with a start index over here and put width over here. It's interchangeable really between the two. So the modder chose to put it over here, which is fine. It's interesting, and let me see here. Yeah, it's just a little in front of the pickup. Boy, probably if it would have been me, I probably would have moved it just a little back so you'd see the material kind of coming into here. Yeah, visually, this is going to pick it up just before it gets here, maybe. It maybe depends on how fast you're going. Oh, it's interesting. They got the shaft right in here. But anyway, that's their start. We look at width to go across, and I'm kind of curious to see. Yeah, boy, these guys, I'll give them that. They put it just a little wider to, here it's picking up an area just a little bit wider than that. And height, completes the third point. It's right behind, see, the start one was right up here. So, let me look at this here. Start translated as -0.8. 8.2. Let me look at height. This must be the x-axis here. Z, I think, is fore and aft. X is back and forth. So the width in, the start index and the height index, if you want to define a rectangle, I think need to be side by side like this. Whoops, I didn't mean to move that. If you want a parallelogram, you could put the height index over by the width, and then it kind of defines an area that's the shape of a parallelogram. But I believe when you put the height index right behind the start index, here versus here versus here, then you're going to define kind of a rectangle here in which also is a type of parallelogram, that will pick up the material. Okay, so what do we want to do? I want to make it just slightly wider. So let me go first to the straw index, and let me see here. I move it just a fuzz. We'll find out. Yeah, it's moving on the x-axis. What happens if I go to 0.9? Or negative 0.9? So that's just outside there. Okay, what if I just go to a full meter? Is that pushing it too much? I don't know. I think I'm gonna take that. Okay, minus 1 over. I need to take my height index, because now the height index is still over here. So I want to move the add also to a minus 1. So now it's on parity with the start index. And then the width index over here is, let me see, that's almost a meter the other way. What happens if I just make it a full-on meter? Okay, maybe this is defying reality just a little bit, but what can I say? I wanted just a little bit more room. It looks like when they set up the mod, they gave you some extra room. We've now given ourselves just a fuzz more. So, tell you what, I am going to save that. Now, all we did in here was move these indices. We didn't move any parts. We just moved a couple of these indices that the game is going to call up. Those are for particle systems, I think. That'll appear here. So these 3 areas, we didn't make any other changes, but we did move them in the i3D file. So let's save that. Actually, you know what? It probably isn't going to let me save. I probably need to get out of the game. And I'm going to need to get back in. Now, let me see if I can save it, because a lot of times I don't think it'll accept a save while the game is running and you're inside the editor making updates and changes. So that now is saved. Let me get out of there. We didn't make any changes in here. These indices are still the same, so there's no need to change this particular file. We didn't make any changes in here. The mod description file, it still is referring to everything that it needs. So now that we've done all that, I believe we can, let me just zip that thing back up, and I have WinRare installed. I put it in a zip file. I grabbed all the files. I could have skipped this one here, but why not keep it? It was in the original. And we have just modified, the original was still in there, so let's replace it. And we've just modified this mod, and let me delete that. And we're gonna get this thing started back up again. Be back in just a second. Alright, we're back in game. Yes, we really are working, Grandpa. We're fixing our machinery. We head back to the baler. Here it is. Of course, visually, we're not going to see anything happen to it. This isn't a very wide windrow here, but you know what? Why don't we crank her up? Oops. We'll get this puppy everything seems to be functioning. You know something, as I listen to the sound of this baler, I'm convinced I hear people talking in the background. There's the bell. Anyways, let me get this sucker going. Alright, you know what? It still was kicking out a few extra bales, I think. Maybe because this was a large windrow. I don't know. Oops. And I promptly drive over the top of them. Good old bale physics at work. Alright, so it should be able to pick up even this wide area, if you will. You'll notice it's picking up to the side. It's picking up clear over by this wheel, so maybe we ended up overdoing it just a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and I will start windrowing this field. I think, oops, did it not? I think I missed a piece. Alright, so it isn't being too exorbitant here. I'm going to go ahead and windrow the field anyways, and we'll start getting this all put together so we can get some hay work done. Yeah, I'm sorry, past couple episodes we've been just doing some modding things here, but hopefully you're still enjoying as we play on this map of Beskidy. I'm just trying to drum out as many errors as I can out of existence so they don't raise their ugly head later and cause us problems. But you know, the thing about it's one thing to have a clean log file, which I know is optimum. That's kind of what we all want. But it's another thing to ensure mods are functioning properly. You know, you can have a clean log file, but you still may have input binding conflicts. It still may not work appropriately, and so forth and so on. So, you know, we kind of did the easy part of the battle. You eliminate what's in the log at first in terms of errors, but some of the harder parts, you know, are going to come later as we make sure things are behaving the way they should. Alright, I'm just going to park... Oh, kick that bale out. Get it out of the foliage. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride and enjoying Beskidy with me. Take care.